Shalom, 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 Yasharala. This your boy, Brother Samuel, back at you with another quick edifying video, right? And right now I'm going to do another Lamby back, a response video, right, from one of the ox from GMS, right? GMS Inspiration and Motivation, right? He did a response video, and why is the Apocrypha important, right? So first and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say Kol Hala Yahweh, Ba'ashem Mashiach Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, right? That's all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose real name is Yahweh, right? And his only begotten Son's name, whose name is Yahweh Shai, right? And the Holy Spirit, right? Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone from Tahar on down, who have ruled well, right? And who have taught us well through the Spirit, right? So yeah, I was watching this brother's video, right? He's from GMS Inspiration and Motivation, right? And he did a response video on why the Apocrypha is important, right? From another some Akim who did one, I guess from Dallas, from GMS, right? And they were just going into the Apocrypha, right? And it had me to go thinking too. So I just want to do a Lammy back, on this too as well, right? Of why the Apocrypha is important, right? So let's just get into it, right? So the Apocrypha, right? And for you brothers and sisters who don't know what the Apocrypha was taken out of the 1611 King James Version Bible, right? And if you go here to the definition, it says the word Apocrypha means hidden in Greek, right? These books were written primarily in the time between the Old and New Testament, right? And it goes from First Esdras, and then it kind of basically talks about it, right? But the Apocrypha were books that were taken out of the what you normally use as the King James Version Bible, right? The 1611 has it, right? It's in Old English, but it has all the books that are in there, right? And it's First Esdras, Second Esdras, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, right? The Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, right? Baruch, the Song of the Three Holy Children, the History of Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, the Prayer of Manasseh, First and Second Maccabees, right? And these are all important books, because they put a lot of the pieces to the Bible together, right? And it basically it's a cohesive unit, and it flows. That's how you know that it's through the Spirit. You can it flows with precept upon precept, right? Using the Apocrypha, right? And the Old Testament and New Testament, right? And so one thing, I just wanted to, talk about, with the Apocrypha is it has history based in there, right? And one of them, this is just an example, right? I'm not going to go too in depth, and it's not going to be a long video, right? But it says you have Alexander the Great, right? When you can go and you can just Google Alexander, son of Philip, and this will appear, right? It says family background: Alexander was born in Pella, Macedonia, in 356 BC. Alexander the Great was the son of King Philip II, right? So I just wanted to bring that out, right? Because I'm gonna go to it real quick. All right, I'm gonna go to it in the Apocrypha. All right, let's go to it. We're gonna go to, and this was taken out, like I say, during the after the 1611 Bible, right? It was taken out, and it's basically called the Hidden Books. Why? Because it's a lot of good, relevant information that was taken out to kind of keep people still asleep and not knowing, right? But now we know with knowledge increasing in the last days, and now the Most High has opened this book back up to us now through the Apocrypha and through the whole rest of the Bible, the complete Bible now. We have the understanding, right, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? So I'm gonna get this real quick. This is in the Apocrypha. All right, we're gonna go to First Maccabees, chapter 6, and verse number 2, right? And it says, and that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold and breastplates and shields, which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Greeks, had left there. Right, so it's actually going into the history, right? Especially when you read the Maccabees and stuff, and you actually understand, when you go to Paul's letters and he's talking about the Gentiles, who the Gentiles are in the New Testament, because it kind of specifies, of how, you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans were in a Gentile state of mind, and how you were considered Gentiles and you had to be Gentiles, right? Let's just get that real quick. But you saw that, Salaki, I'm going to go back. You saw the history of Alexander the Great, right? And it's in the Apocrypha, right? And it puts the history. So you have the history, you have the prophecies, right? And you have all this stuff together, right? And so people say, oh, the Bible's not real. Hey, man, you got real actual history and real events in this book, man, right? But we're going to get into it a little further, though. But I just wanted to touch that, right? So what we got to understand is, a lot of reasons they took this stuff out of the book. When you go to who the Gentiles were, right? You can kind of see what was going on, right? Let's see, where is that? Salakia. Let me find that real quick. No, it's in Second Maccabees. 6 and right here. Yep, this is it. This is 2 Maccabees 6, and this is verse 6. It says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or the ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew, right? And I'm going to jump down to verse number 9, right? Let's jump down to verse number 9, right? And this is, a precept you can go to understand of why we were called Gentiles, why they were called Gentiles in the New Testament, right? It says, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen and present the present Salakia. Let me read it again. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. So back then, the Jews were being afflicted for, to try to be conformed into the Greek fashion, right? And then we couldn't even profess ourselves to be called Jews anymore, right? Or we couldn't profess, our the Sabbath. We couldn't profess, like, all this stuff. They were cracking down on us, right? So at that point, we were considered like the Gentiles, right? We started going into the the heathen ways, right? Let me jump to verse 4, right? Let's jump this real quick. Salakia. All right. So it says, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, right? Who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful, right? So these were the actual heathen Gentiles who were doing this, right? And then guess what? So they defiled our temple, right? But then what they did was they tried to conform their ways on us, right? Where we couldn't even profess ourselves to do the holy feasts, to do anything, to profess to do the Sabbath, like all that stuff, right? And so it was kind of like they banned it from us, right? When you read this book, right? When you read this history of what happened to us, right? So there's a lot of history in here for us, right? Another thing too, there's a lot of prophecy. There's a lot of prophecy, in the Apocrypha, right? Especially when you go, let's get this real quick. When you go to like in Second Esdras, right? There's a lot of prophecy in Second Esdras, of what's happening, right? And what's gonna happen, right? When you go to let's get this, Second Esdras chapter 13, right? When you go, we can just start at 5, I guess. You start at verse 5, right? And it talks about what's going to be happening in the last days, right? During when World War III is popping off, right? And then it talks about when Yahushua returns, right? And when you see it, it talks about I'll just go to verse 6 or verse 5 says, and behold, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. And that man that came out of the sea was Yahweh Bashem Yahshai, right? And it says, and I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it, right? And that's talking about the chariot of the Lord that Yahushua is coming back in, right? Or what you ignorantly call the UFOs, man, right? He's coming back in a spaceship, basically, right? And he's coming back, and the spaceship is going to be so big. Ezra saw it looking as a mountain, right? He saw it, and it looked so huge that it looked as big as a mountain. That's how big this spaceship that Yahushua, right, the Son of the Most High, is coming in, right? And it basically tells you about what's going to happen during that time, that they're going to stop fighting each other, right? And they're going to all want to fight. They're going to think it's an alien invasion. They're going to try to fight. They're going to try to fight the Lord, right? These other nations are going to try to fight the Lord, right? And the Lord is going to subdue them all and take over, right? So all this is written in the Apocrypha, right? You also have here, you have where, let me get this right here, the 10 tribes, right, or the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Hispanics and natives, right, the Native Americans, how they came here to the Americas, right? And you can read that. And where do you read that? You read that in Second Esdras, right? Let's see. Let me just get this real quick and we'll read this. Right? This is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 13, verse 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Osias the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land, right? But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, right? And that was talking about America, right? And it says that they might keep their statutes, which they had never kept in their own land, right? Because when you read the history, right, the Northern Kingdom, they went off in idolatry, like real bad idolatry, and just all types of like the heathen customs, right? They just basically were just caught up in it, right? So the Most High kind of basically gave them their divorce papers, right? And that's how they went into that Gentile state of mind, right? But they came here to the Americas, right? It says, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the rivers. It says, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For though that country, there was a great way to go, nearly a year and a half, and the same region is called Asareth, right? And so this is where the Northern Kingdom came, and when you read it and you read in the spirit, man, you understand that Asareth is basically what we call the Americas today, right? They came here to this land where no man had ever dwelt, right? And then that's when, if you can read and do research, Christopher Columbus came with the Bible, with the Apocrypha, and he knew that the children of Israel, right, the Northern Kingdom was over here. And what did he do? He grabbed them, put them on slave ships, and brought them to Spain, right? That's why they speak Spanish and all that stuff now, right? And it's all in the history, but it's in It's in the Apocrypha, man. You got to go to the Apocrypha to kind of find that, right? Like I said, I didn't want to make this too long, but there's all types of prophecies in here, right? You got the prophecy of Yahweh Shai, right? Let's see, where is that? Salakia. That's 28. Second Ezra 2, or Second Ezra 7, and let's go with 20. I believe it's right here. Salakia. Yep, here we go. Yep, here it is. I'm Salakia. I just couldn't see it right here. This is Second Ezra chapter 7 and verse 28. It says, "For my son Yahweh Shai shall be revealed with those that be with him," right? Talking about the elect, right? And the like the apostles and all that, right? It says, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. After these years shall my son Hamashiach die, and all men may have life, right? So it's prophesied that he was going to die for our sins, right? And it's all here in the Apocrypha, man, right? It even names his name in here, right? So it's a lot of stuff that they took this book out for a reason, because it has a lot of good information in there, right? And another one, which you don't understand, is Yahweh Shai actually quoted from the Apocrypha, right? And I'm just going to get a couple of those, and I'm gonna close it out, right? Let's get this. Let's go to the book of John. Or not, Salakia. I mean, he referenced things that were in the Apocrypha, but he did quote something out of the Apocrypha, and I'm going to get that, right? So this is the book of John, chapter 10, and verse 22. And it says, and this is Yahweh Shai rejected by the Jews, but it says, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter, right? So this was Yahweh Shai was going to the feast of dedication. But how do you know about the feast of dedication? Right? How do you know kind of what happened and what the purpose was? You got to go to the Apocrypha to find it, right? So this John 10 and 22, it says, and as at Jerusalem, it was the feast of dedication, and it was winter, and Yahweh Shai walked into the temple in Solomon's porch, right? So Yahweh Shai was celebrating the feast of dedication, right? Which they call Hanukkah and different stuff of that, right? But how do you know about that? You got to go into the Apocrypha, right? And let's go to First Maccabees, chapter 4. And I'm going to start at verse 52, right? 52 real quick. It says, now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Chislev, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar, right, of burning offerings, which they had made. It says, look at what time and the day the heathen have profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs, cisterns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High of heaven, who had given them good success, right? So they had to, basically the heathen had desecrated our temple, right? They had sacrificed all types of abominable things on the altar, right? They were having sex on and orgies, like all in the temple, man, basically defiling our temple. So we had to, we had to get it back, and then we had to reestablish it and sanctify it, right? It says, I'm going to read on in verse 56, and it says, and so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus were there great gladness among the people, for they that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Right? It says, moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of dedication of the altar should be kept in their seasons from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Chislev, with myrrh and gladness. So, right, this is when the Feast of Dedication came about, and it's in the Maccabees, which is in the Apocrypha, right, which is important. So how are you going to be a follower of Christ, and Christ celebrated the Feast of Dedication? How would you even know how to do it or know what it's about unless you went into Apocrypha to kind of find out and get the history of it, right? So the Apocrypha is very important, and it's very much important to your understanding, to learning these scriptures. You're right, and it's just as much as the Bible as any other part, right? So, and another thing, right, when I was mentioning earlier that Yahushua actually referenced or quoted something out of the Apocrypha, right? So I'm going to go to that. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 23, and I'm going to go to verse number 37, right? It says, Yahushua laments over Jerusalem. It says, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. It says, behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Right? But the part where I wanted to get was the first part in verse 37. It says, how often would I have gathered the children together, even as the hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Right? And you kind of like, where is he getting that from? Right? You got to go to the Apocrypha. Right? So let's get that. Let's go into the book of 2nd Ezra and the Apocrypha. Right? We're going to go to 2nd Ezra. All right, we're going to go to 1. And we're going to go to verse number 30. Right? And it reads, I gather you together as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings. But now, what shall I do unto you? I will cast you out of my face. Right? And that's what Yahushua was talking about. Right? He was talking about, let's get that. Let's go back to that part. Salakia. It says, verse 37 in Matthew 23 and verse 37, it says, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. It says, behold, your house is left unto you desolate. Right? So his house was left unto desolate, which means they were gonna get cast out, right? He was telling them about what is that? The desolation of abomination. Salaki, if I misquoted, right? But he was talking about, that 70 AD too, that casting out, that we were gonna be thrown out of Jerusalem, that we were gonna be thrown out of Israel. We weren't gonna be able to worship in there, we weren't be able to do anything, right? And that's where the southern kingdom, right, was cast out of Jerusalem right after that 70 AD, and we went into the west coast of Africa, right? And then guess what? From the west coast of Africa, we were taken on slave ships and taken here to Arsareth, right, in the Bible, which is America, right, to join our northern kingdom brothers, which we are here all now today in Babylon, together, right, in this place Babylon together, where we were going to be redeemed and delivered in these last days through Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? So, but yeah, he was quoting from this 2nd Ezra chapter 1 and verse 30 when he went to that verse, man. right? He was quoting that. It says, I gathered you together as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, but now what shall I do unto you? I will cast you out of my face, right? So he was based, and a lot of times in the New Testament they're quoting, a lot of scriptures from the Old Testament, and now you see also even from the Apocrypha, right? Even from the Apocrypha, they're quoting, right? So, the Apocrypha is definitely an important piece, right? And you brothers and sisters who don't have the Apocrypha, I would highly suggest, and it would behoove you to get the Apocrypha, because it is the missing link, and it has a lot of good information, right? In the book of Sirach, you got the book, the Wisdom of Solomon. I mean, the whole book is fire, right? And if you can get to 1611 Bible, right, and it's all complete in there. It's Old English. It might be a little hard to read. It has the Roman numerals, but you can still understand it and be able to read it, right? But I hope this video has been edifying, right? I want to give all praises, honor, and glory, right? I want to say, peace and blessing to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, right? Keep brothers and sisters, keep going. Brothers, keep putting out these lessons, right, to edify the body, right? Keep striving, keep praying for one another, right? And with that, I want to say shalom.